Welcome to Mac Stories Unwind, the show that's all about the picks. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Vitici. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well. We're going to wrap up today with our final episode in the series of best of episodes that we've been doing with the best of video games of 2022. But before we get into the games, I want to mention that we are taking off for a short holiday break. We're going to be back on January 13th. That's the next Friday that we'll be back with Unwind. In the meantime, we're going to probably, knowing the two of us, be playing a lot of games. Maybe watching a few movies, catching up on some TV, listening to some good music, all that stuff. And so we'll have a lot more to share once we get back on January 13th. But I wanted to make sure everybody knew about that so that they weren't disappointed when they came to Christmas Eve or whatever day the next Friday is and didn't have an episode of Unwind.
Yeah, they'd be like on Christmas Eve, they'd be like, hey, where are my picks? Oh, well, there are no picks on Christmas
That's
Eve.
right.
You know, we're taking the time off to spend some time with the family. I'm probably gonna go see a bunch of friends in Viterbo that I haven't seen in a few years because of COVID and all the things that happened. But yeah, it's gonna. I'm kind of scared that my things of my list of things I want to do to relax is already approaching a to-do list status.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, I know that I'm not gonna get to all of this, and I'm probably just gonna, sit on the couch and play Pokemon or something. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to unplug and unwind for real for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do the same thing. I do look at my list of things I want to do over the holidays and realize that, well, we're only really taking a couple of weeks off. I don't really can't really cram 6 months worth of projects into 2 weeks. But so instead, I think I'm just going to take it easy, but try to get to some of those projects as well. Speaking of which, I do want to tell you, but this is a total aside, but I got the Blu-rays of the Lord of the Rings series extended edition.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I got those as well.
I'm going to pop them into the PS5, I think on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and just watch them back to back. It's 15 Blu-ray discs.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, so I'm going to check it out. I don't know. I've never seen the 4K versions of that stuff, and I've got the new TVs, so I'm going to try to enjoy that.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a visual treat. Those remasters are incredible. Yeah.
Excellent.
Before we talk about video games, I think there's a meta conversation that we need to have about our video game consumption in 2022. And definitely. I can tell you that I am not happy with how little I played video games, especially in the second half of the year. And I think the same may be true for you. I feel like up until the spring, I was playing a lot of video games and, I'm going to talk about those. But then I bought a house and I thought it was going to be relatively easy. I thought I was going to move in at the beginning of the summer and I thought I was going to be done with furniture in just a couple of months. And here we are in December. We moved at the end of July and we are still buying furniture and we're still waiting for other furniture to arrive. And we're still, thinking about things. And obviously, when you do these grown-up things, you got to sacrifice something. And I think we already sacrificed a lot of time that would have normally gone into work, into Mac Stories, into the Discord, into the club. And we were fortunate enough to have people be patient with us. And if you were not patient and you decided to unsubscribe, I understand. I feel like our presence definitely diminished, for a few months there. But there are some things you just got to take care of, like, the paperwork stuff with the house and, moving. I mean, moving was exhausting. And John did it twice. I only did it one time. But obviously, the gaming time suffered, right? Because of all the things that you needed to say, well, what is something that I can not do? And obviously, that was a relaxation, playing video games or watching movies. And overall, I am very, very thankful that the Steam Deck came out in 2022 because that allowed me to pick up and play games first when I didn't have my equipment anymore because I had to put my gaming PC in a box and my PlayStation in a box when I was packing. And then because it was also, it turned out to be this really incredible portable console that allowed me to dip in and out of games in a way that wouldn't have been as easy or as time consuming with a desktop PC or with a console. And so even though I would have liked to play more video games, the Steam Deck was the silver lining for me.
Yeah, I'm in kind of the same position. I mean, besides just moving, I managed to ruin my knee at the end of February, have to have surgery, and then I spent many, many weeks in physical therapy building back the strength of that knee and the surrounding muscles. And as a result, I had even less time to kind of unwind and relax and play video games, starting really with the beginning of March. So it has been a very down year for me for a lot of the same reasons as Federico, plus that. And I do feel a little bit maybe like it was a little bit of a down year in the video game industry in terms of releases. There were a lot of good releases. I'm not suggesting that there weren't, but I feel like there wasn't as much that grabbed me. And part of that is the fact that I just wasn't playing as much as I would have liked to, but there was less that really grabbed me from the get-go. And unfortunately, I guess it's probably for my year, the titles that suffered the most, that I've been able to play the least, are the biggest titles, the big ones we got at the end of the year, because I'm only just now kind of coming out of the situation and being able to spend a little more time playing. Plus, I did get a Steam Deck, but not until a little bit later than Federico. So I've only had mine for maybe, I don't know, 2 months or so. And it did make a big difference in my playtime because I did have that ability to, lay down in bed at night and play a little video games before going to sleep, or pull it out for, a half an hour or so here and there and play a game. But as a result, I also kind of dabbled in an awful lot of games this year because I was testing out new platforms and I didn't really focus long hours on any particular game yet this year.
Yeah. There were games like God of War or Horizon Forbidden West,
right,
that I only played for a few hours. I would have loved to recommend God of War on this episode, but I can't because I only played for 2 hours. And these are games that require a certain commitment. They are open world games with a deep story, tons of side quests, a lot of lore to learn. And I just didn't have the time, which is a bit of a tired meme. Oh, I'm a grown up. I don't have time for video games anymore. But I am a grown up at this point, and I did have time for video games, but sometimes life gets in the way. And usually I can set aside, those 2-3 hours each night to play a video game, or maybe during the day if I want to relax for like an hour. But I was unable to follow that schedule because, like an old man, when it was 1 a.m., I was exhausted.
So tired.
And I just wanted to sleep,
Yeah.
And so that's, the sad life of an adult man in his mid-30s buying a house and moving. I was too tired to play video games.
Just wait till you get to my age, Federico. Just wait.
Yeah.
We should dive into the games, I think.
That said, we did play some video games.
We did. And I guess we should start with Scarlet and Violet with Pokemon. I assume that that's on your list too, Federico.
Well, I was going to do a joint pick of Pokemon Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, I think that those are both good joint picks because I played Arceus more than I've played Scarlet and Violet so far.
Me too, yes.
Okay. But I love these games, and I think that Arceus was a nice precursor to Scarlet and Violet. I mean, I feel like you can definitely see the influences there. And while I can't say that I'm deep into Scarlet and Violet yet, and it does have a lot of the issues that have been well documented everywhere, it's still a lot of fun, and I still enjoy playing it.
Yeah, I really liked Legends Arceus as a sort of an open world spin-off of Pokemon that in hindsight was obviously a precursor to Scarlet and Violet that take the concept further. I liked Legends Arceus. after a while, sort of the post game became a bit of a chore, like getting through, like it was a bit of a slog to get through like all of those missions, and especially in the late game. But I still played like 40 something hours of a Legend Arceus. I was really looking forward to playing Scarlet and Violet when they came out in November, but I haven't been able to really dig in so far because of a bunch of things that we needed to conclude for Mac Stories before the end of the year. That said, I'm about 15 to 16 hours into Scarlet and Violet. I haven't finished the story. I've really enjoyed exploring so far. Like I got my first gym badge after like 8 hours, and I was just walking around catching Pokemon, trying to break the game by entering areas I was not supposed to be in yet, which you can tell because suddenly you're faced, like you're level 20 and you're faced with a Pokemon that's level 45 and you're like, oops, I was not supposed to be here.
Right.
There are technical glitches for sure. The graphics aren't great, but the core mechanics and the design of the new Pokemon I'm really liking. And there's I am probably going to get into this after I'll be able to really dig into the main story and, evolve my Pokemon, start building a team, because I want to play competitive again. I haven't played online at all. I haven't finished the game. I got to do the post game to, make sure that I can get all of the competitive information that I need in terms of checking my Pokemon stats and whatnot. But from what I've seen so far and from what I'm seeing in YouTube videos, I think the competitive scene has really picked up with Scarlet and Violet, and it's going to be really interesting to see that grow. I'm referring to VGC, of course, in 2023. But from what I've seen so far, these are really fun games, and for sure, this is what I'm going to play over the holiday break more and more.
Oh, yeah, same here. Arceus, I think, is the game that I probably spent the most time in this year. I didn't go back and look, but I did an awful lot. I did play it an awful lot. And both that and Scarlet and Violet, I kind of play these games the way you've been playing them, which is I just like to kind of explore and find things and look around. I mean, I'll get to the story in my own time, but I just love the worlds that have been built here, and going around collecting the Pokemon, doing some battles and exploring the towns and seeing what's available. And so I take this at a very, very leisurely pace. By the time I finally get to a gym or something, I'm way leveled up and ready to go because I've essentially been grinding just through my exploring in the early parts of the game. Yeah. And that's been fun.
Yeah. All right, can I talk about my game of the year?
Oh, sure.
Well, my game of the year is Elden Ring.
Of course, yes.
Yes. So one of my goals for 2022 was to finally play a From Software game. And I had never played a Dark Souls game before, and I was scared. And because I knew that these were challenging games, unforgiving games, right? And I talked about this on Unwind before. I talked about this on Remaster with Mike Hurley. I made a promise to myself, sort of more like a challenge. Like, I want to try and play Elden Ring. Not only did I play Elden Ring, but I finished Elden Ring. I finished the main story. I played about 80 hours of Elden Ring. And I continued playing it after completing the main story, just to continue explore this incredible game, this incredible world that From Software has built. And it's a game that I want to go back to explore, sort of like I did with Breath of the Wild 5 years ago. That even after completing the main story, there's still so much content to discover and to enjoy. Elden Ring is my game of the year because first of all, it changed my perception of what kind of gamer I can be. And it brought back that sense of sheer awe at the challenge and scope of a game that I hadn't felt since Breath of the Wild. There have been many Breath of the Wild inspired games, right? Since 2017.
Sure.
And I think Elden Ring has been the only one that has not only captured the formula, but improved upon it and put its unique spin on it as well, right? Because this is also a very different game from Breath of the Wild, where a very different set of challenges. Elden Ring is on PC where I played, it's a beautiful game. I played on, at 4K, 60 frames per second on an OLED screen and then on an OLED TV. It's beautiful. But I also played it on Steam Deck, to do those quick sessions for like 30 minutes, just exploring, maybe entering one of the many catacombs of the game and just doing that for like 45 minutes or something. The freedom to customize your character, all the different thousands, I want to say, items of equipment that you can choose from, all the different builds that you can try. Maybe you want to be a paladin, maybe you want to be a wizard, maybe you want to be an assassin, like all this freedom that you have in terms of doing different builds and finding your play style. But mostly the sense of discovery. It's a massive world that just the sheer size of it is just incredible. And the challenge, the learning the combat, failing over and over, but not because the game was unfair, but because you weren't good enough. And, this has become a bit of a meme, with Elden Ring.
Right.
If you don't enjoy Elden Ring, it's because you gotta get good. But yeah. For me, at least, there was there was some truth in it, which is Elden Ring shook off the kind of complacency that I think I had with video games, and it made me realize that this style of game I can also enjoy and I can love. And for all those reasons, the fact that I'm still thinking about Elden Ring, that I want to, boot up the game and continue playing and exploring, there's still so much I haven't seen. And the fact that by sheer playtime, it's the game I played most, that's why 2022, if I gotta pick a single game that I gotta remember, it's Elden Ring.
All right, well, that's a great pick. I have not played Elden Ring, so I don't really have anything to add to that. But I will say I'm actually not going to pick a game of the year just because I feel like I didn't spend enough time on what I suspect would have been my game of the year, which would be Scarlet and Violet. And instead, I'm just going to kind of go through the ones that I've played this year.
Sure.
And what I wanted to, I mentioned kind of at the outset that the Steam Deck really did make a difference in my ability to play games this year, and it really brought me a few titles that I've really enjoyed. And
yeah, you have a few indie picks in here that I really like.
Yeah, and the first one is one that you had suggested to me when I first got my Steam Deck, which is Vampire Survivors.
I was gonna pick this one too. Yes, go ahead. I love this game.
This game, when I first, before the Steam Deck arrived, I had seen, I'd seen articles about this. I'd seen it pop up in different places. And I don't know if it was the artwork or what it is about this game. I just kind of wrote it off as this looks like kind of a low budget, not very interesting game. And it's a very simple game. It's got kind of a retro pixelated style. And the whole point of it is you're this guy you pick various characters that you want to be, that's avoiding this onslaught of all sorts of enemies. And it just gets more and more intense as you survive. And along the way, you're killing your enemies and you're picking up gold and other collectibles. And the whole idea is to get as far as you can and level up before you finally your health is down to zero and you die and you have to start all over again. And so it's a very simple, very mobile type of game. Works particularly well on the Steam Deck. It's out on iOS now too. Funnily enough, too, in vertical portrait mode, which I think is very interesting. I have not played it a lot yet on iOS, and I do want to spend some time with it to kind of see to what degree it's different than on the Steam Deck. It happens to be free on iOS, and it's not an expensive game on Steam. I mean, the price has gone up over time, but it's still like less than $5, I think, on Steam right now. But in any event, really fun game, great kind of game to be able to sit down and just take a few stabs at surviving the enemies from time to time and fit in really well with the kind of games I was playing this year.
Yeah. What else are you going to pick with these indie games? I think we should talk about Stray, because I think it's also an excellent one. Yes.
Yeah, Stray's fantastic. I found Stray right about the time we had settled into our apartment after our first move of the two moves, and I had a brief period over the summer when I could play games. And Stray was one of the first new titles that I downloaded and gave a try with. And it's what I think really makes this game work. I mean, you play as a cat in kind of a post-apocalyptic future, and you're solving puzzles and exploring the world. And I think what really makes this work is both the visuals, which are stunning, as well as the cat's movement, which is very realistic for a cat. I wouldn't have told you if you'd asked me, would you like to explore a futuristic world as a cat? I wouldn't have probably told you yes until I tried Stray. And it really is one of those neat games that it kind of gives you it really does a good job of giving you the perspective of the cat. I mean, you can purr and you can scratch at things, and it is what it is. And it's not a huge game, but it's a lot of fun and I found very relaxing, especially during the summer when I was kind of busy and needed to take a little time off and try something.
Yeah, there's a bunch of games. I loved Stray, and it's so moody, and it really conveys the feeling of controlling a cat and seeing things from a cat perspective.
I love the city too, because of all the neon, and it's just really well designed cityscape.
Yeah, there's a few games that I want to mention that I started, but I haven't sunk enough time into. God of War Ragnarok. I was able to finally finish the original God of War this year after I set it aside for a couple of years. I finished that, and then I started God of War Ragnarok, and I needed to put it on pause because I just didn't have the time for it. Horizon Forbidden West. This is a bit of a meme with me when it comes to Horizon games. Like, they always come out at exactly the wrong time. Horizon Forbidden West came out, and then I think Elden Ring came out, and it was the same deal in 2017 when Horizon Zero Dawn came out on PS4, and then Breath of the Wild launched on the Switch.
Yeah.
So these Horizon games, I'll get to it eventually, but I played for like 5 hours and then I stopped. And there's a lot of these games that this year I just tried, played for a few hours, and then I wanted to check out something else. So instead, I mentioned Pokemon Legends Arceus, Scarlet and Violet, Vampire Survivors, Elden Ring. The last game I will mention of the games that I really played is Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, yeah.
Cyberpunk is living a true renaissance at the moment after a very problematic launch. I think it was in 2019. This year, the folks at Project Red were able to make good on the promise of Cyberpunk as this sprawling open world futuristic game that mixes first-person shooter elements with action RPG elements. And I can tell you, I have played, I think, about 20 hours of Cyberpunk so far on PC. I'm not done with the main story yet, and I've done a few side quests. I am really enjoying this game. All the patches that have been brought to the game, all of the new content, the fixes, the there's no DLC out yet, but playing on PC, 1440p, 100 frames per second with ray tracing enabled. This game looks beautiful. Night City is a fantastic setting for a video game. You just mentioned, the city of Stray. This is that to the extreme.
Yeah,
imagine
it really
GTA, but in a dystopian future, in this metropolis full of neon lights and reflections and, weird districts. It's, typically not the kind of game that I would play, first-person shooter that is also an RPG, but I am really fascinated by the story about, these humans in the future sort of augmenting themselves through the use of chips and AI, and the game plays really nice right now. After all the fixes that Project Red brought over the past couple of years. And then I think it was the Netflix show Edge Runners that, put Cyberpunk back into people's minds again this year. And I think a lot of people like me decided, hey, let me check it out again now that there's also a Netflix anime. And they realized, oh, this game is actually good now. And then the Steam Deck came out, and folks realized I can also play this on the Steam Deck. And they introduced cross-compatibility for saves between PS5 and PC. And so I think it was sort of like a perfect storm for Cyberpunk in 2022, and that's why it's one of the games that I think over the holidays, this is what I want to play. I want to play Pokemon, and I want to finish at the very least the main story of Cyberpunk. I'm enjoying this game, trying different builds, trying different combat styles, and just exploring the city and doing side quests and following the main story. The main story is really good, and I'm really into the big picture themes that Cyberpunk offers. So yeah, this is another of my this is my last sort of top pick of the year. And then there's a whole collection of things that I bought from Steam, and I just added them to my library because they were on sale. And as the meme goes, I'll get to them eventually.
Right. I'm gonna close out with just one more, I think, myself. But I played Cyberpunk 2 a little bit just on the Steam Deck, and it caught me at a bad time of year, and I just didn't really get very deep into it, and so it never really hooked me. But it is probably a game that I think I need to come back to and see what it's like and really, really dig in a little more. The last one that I want to mention is Rollerdrome, because this is by Roll7. You know, they've done the Ollie Ollie games. They've done skateboarding games. This is on roller skates, but similar, a lot of similar mechanics and things like that. This is a really neat game, and it's fantastic on the Steam Deck, because it's I don't know, just very immersive in that environment. But you know, you're taking down enemies as you roller skate from one side to the other of these various levels that have all kinds of complex half pipes and I guess like different kinds of shapes that you're skating along, and it has this neat mode where you can kind of, you're shooting down the enemies and you're going into the kind of the bullet time style where you're going in slow-mo and at the same time you're moving through the air, you're focusing and aiming at the enemies and taking them out. It's the kind of game that also worked well for me this year, because you don't have to do it for long periods of time. You can kind of dive in and out, and it's a relatively simple way to, get into a new style game. And I think, though, that the thing that really caught my eye about this right at the beginning is the amazing visuals, because the artwork here is so good. It really is reminiscent of playing a comic book, which I really like that art style. And I really enjoyed it, and think this is a game that I'll probably be coming back to as kind of one of those that when I'm taking a break between big games, I can play a little Rollerdrome.
Very nice.
All right, Federico, I guess that's it for this year. We're going to hope for a better 2023 in terms of our video game playtime. I think that we'll be able to do a little more this year, don't you think?
Yes, I think so.
All right. Well, you can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Federico and I are on Mastodon, too. Federico is at Viticci, that's VITICCI, and I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you in January, Federico.
Ciao, John.